Okay, it's recording. And hello, and welcome to our Welcome Summer Open Mic Night. Hi, Chad. My name is Sean. I will be our MC tonight. I'm going to go over the mission statements and the other things, and then we will jump right into the Open Mic Night and go from there. So, Helicon West is a live reading series that brings published local writers to read alongside community members in an open, uncensored forum. In order to promote the voices of every community member and democratic ideals, we honor all levels of skill, ability, and craft. In addition to featuring published authors to give the literary arts more exposure in Cache Valley and its surrounding areas, we invite and celebrate aspiring writers from every walk of life to find and share their voices with us. We are committed to the causes of inclusion, accessibility, and representation in our writing community. Helicon West operates on the territory of the northwestern band of the Shoshone Nation, whose people have been living, working, and residing on this land from time immemorial. We acknowledge that these lands carry the stories of these nations and their struggles for survival and identity. We recognize elders past and present as peoples who have cared for and continue to care for the land. In offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous self-governance, history, experiences, and resiliency of the Native people who are still here today. I would like to thank our sponsors, the Logan Library, Sugar House Review, the Utah Humanities, our founder and matron saint, Star Colebrook, and the Cache Valley Center for the Arts for our now summertime home. Well, partly summertime. If you would like to read during the open mic portion of our event, which is the whole event, please find our sign-up sheet right over there. Each of you will get up to 7 minutes to read before we politely and firmly clap you off the stage. I think I've only seen that a couple times, but it can happen, so that's the threat. All of our Helicon West events are recorded and then posted to our YouTube channel. If you don't want to be recorded, just do this at me, and I will stop the recording, or you can tell me don't record. Either way, that's that. Helicon West is made possible by our generous sponsors and by the community we serve to help us stay in person until the new Logan Library is built. Not to mention hydrated and caffeinated, there are several ways to make a donation. You can scan our QR code and donate via PayPal, and those are on the bookmarks, but the bookmarks aren't set out, that's me. You can leave your sweet pocket change in our collection can. Help us bring free literary events to our community. If something moves you, if the coffee revives you, if you got a great date out of tonight, consider leaving a tip to help keep a good thing going. And then, as far as announcements go, on Thursday, June 8th, we will have a writer named Kelly, and I have her email, but I don't remember her last name. And she will be here in this space. And then we will be having 2 events throughout all of summer. We're trying to be ambitious, and we'll see how it goes. So, hopefully we'll see you back throughout the summer, and now I will move on to the open mic. Okay, so our first 3 readers are Asher Blakely, Ron Jensen, and Aaron Tin.
These days, the sun slips behind mountain ridges early, drowning the world in purple gloom that steals all good thoughts from inside my head and saps my bones of life. I am one with the wild flowers buried beneath cold dirt and bitter snow waiting. My mother's attempted suicide. I didn't see her wade barefoot through dirty puddles of sludge oozing up the curb over and across the cracked sidewalks. I didn't see her standing on the cold concrete, staring out over the water, ice bobbing in the current. I didn't see her hesitate before climbing the bridge, trembling like a ghost while the sun sank below the horizon. I didn't see her descend into the frigid river, body a narrow line of desire, dark water closing over her like a coffin. Waking Sleeping Beauty. The floor is a sea of pink carpet, walls papered in bubblegum and blush, and a pattern of rosebuds with their pretty pink lips sealed up tight. Her bedroom set is perfectly matched pieces of whitewashed oak with ribbons and bows carved into the headboard in the satin soft pink of newly healed skin. There is a desk with a little book hutch and a matching chair, a sliver of bedside table, and a tall boy dresser with 5 drawers deep enough to hide a body. Sheer curtains guard the window that look out over the half-dead tree in the front yard. Roses grow untended, yellow and peach and white blooms crowded together like a malevolent choir of angels. She lies cocooned in the covers, watching the canopy ripple in the evening breeze, and waits for the knob to rattle as the door cracks open, spilling pale yellow light like blood across the floor. The monster peeks his dark head around the jamb and murmurs her name in the dark. The hinges squeak as he pushes his big shoulders through, snicks the door back into the frame, shuffles his feet as he walks. He unwraps her like a boy opening a present, runs his sweat-slick knuckles up her thigh, trailing beneath the hem of her nightgown. He cups his hand over her, long fingers trailing the elastic edge of her panties with the lace and the silky pink bow tied beneath her belly button. She shivers, legs crossed over each other so tight it hurts, doesn't stop him sliding her cotton protection off. No sound as they drop to the floor. The bed shudders as he shimmies himself free of his shorts and arranges his body beside hers. She feels the brush of his lips against her ear as he whispers, "My darling," his big hands wrapped around her shoulders, me pressing her legs apart to make room. The pain is a slippery creature flaying her open. Daddy's girl. Daddy promised to wreck my world if I shared his secrets. Tie me to a kitchen chair, make me watch. Pull the gun from the back of the closet behind the funeral clothes. First to go mother, that traitorous bitch. Never really loved him anyway. Then Brian, middle child and mouthy, always first to talk back. And Richard, the sniveling youngest, unable to do anything right. Finally, he turned the gun on himself, put a hole through his gut so big they'd never sew it shut. Daddy told me all about prison, where I would be alone at the mercy of someone who wouldn't love me as much as he did. The police would be forced, hands tied behind their backs, to send me as his accomplice, for killing my family, for opening my mouth, for telling the things we did after the rest of the house was sleeping.
Hey, Ron.
Like birthday party gave me, and you the first day, amongst the others, you got that name. I tried to get it, you the best. And so it's on you, you went to look at it. Look at it. Decided it, you were gone. So if I can out, you must been gone.
Yeah.
Can you touch it? Ooh,
Yep.
yeah. Power. Okay. No, I didn't mess it up. I'm so proud of myself. Okay. All right. Hi. So yeah, I'm Aaron. Anyway, here's poems. Little Debbie. I used to hide food, not real food, snacks. I would take the last cosmic brownie from the box, tuck it behind salsa, sour cream, and butter. I would think about it all day. In the hot quiet after school, it would be there, waiting or not. Now I hide a plan. Behind dishes, laundry, and feeding the cats, I tuck pills. Not real pills, just the thought, crushed in orange juice, bitter on bitter, as I watch Dr. Frankenfurter sing I'm Going Home one last time before I sleep. I hope to dream of the moon, of blue glow on snow, of walking naked, a ghost feeling no chill. I think about it all day. It will be there waiting or not. Thank you. whose family are a bag of dicks. And I'm not ashamed to say it, because they are, so fuck them. Anyway, this is called The Best of Them. Knee-deep in snow-covered greasewood, you stood, swallowed chalky alkaline dust, shouted at the sky when left bloody again. You walked home to chaos and quiet, to all the fucking shouting silences. You did this, grew up alone, made yourself a man, a good fucking man, who loved with a heart so bruised it hurt to breathe. You rose out of the desert, called home, checked in, sent condolences and congratulations, always, never receiving any of your own. Your family wore you like a shadow. Alone, you taught yourself to shine. You are a light in the window to me. You are a blanket of stars, shutting out the dark. Thank you.
Okay, our next reader is Tim, and that's all that signed up. And Kyler. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I'll stop aggressively staring. Take it away, Tim.
Oh, can you turn it?
Yes, absolutely.
From part of a speculative nonfiction essay that I have been working on lately. It's called Meta-Analysis of Epidemiological Significance of Secondary COVID Sickness, an Emerging Disease. And the basis for this is that it's written like a scientific article about a disease I made up called secondary COVID sickness, which is really more of a statement on the human impacts that came from the virus itself. So I'm going to start by reading two of the case studies that are my own personal narratives portrayed as that, and then I'll read the conclusion. Case 2, Retail Employee Narrative. This case study highlights the impacts that COVID-19 had on the incidence of SES-20 in public spaces, particularly in a retail customer interactive environment. This narrative comes from a student that worked for a retail corporation in Logan, Utah before, during, and after the worst of the COVID-19 pandemic. The response has been de-identified. Retail employee. Working for Redacted was supposed to be a relatively short-term gig, but they paid better than anything else I could find at the time. It was nice to have job security through the pandemic, but that was probably the only good thing that came from it. In the first week, people were so kind. They would come up to me and just thank me for the work during such scary times, and they'd appreciate my help and knowledge of the store. They'd respond to out-of-stock products with some variation of, that makes sense, I guess. It's not your fault. We'll try again in a couple days. Thanks for your help. All it took was 2 weeks for all of that to change. Suddenly, I was the enemy because the crazed army of Karens bought cartfuls of toilet paper and soup, leaving us constantly out of stock. People would stampede when we brought out a fresh-off-the-truck pallet of toilet paper, screeching and clawing their way to grab some before they could even stop moving. Social distancing and mask guidelines aside, that's a huge safety hazard. Then there's the issue of masks and social distancing. Redacted implemented a mandatory masking policy for all customers and employees, and they even hired additional personnel to stand at the entrances and hand out face masks, while asking customers to mask up. Apparently, though, there were a number of customers that attacked workers like these with other companies across the country because they felt their rights were being infringed upon. So we weren't allowed to actually enforce the policy. People pushed us aside, coughed on us, and disparaged us for complying with the mask policy. It certainly didn't help that many of my own associates hated the rule. I was the manager in my department for most of the pandemic, and part of my job was enforcing the dress code, which included wearing face masks. Because most of upper management didn't believe COVID was a thing, they really didn't care about wearing masks properly. The store manager told us that our employees just had to have a mask on their face for it to count, but even with that stipulation, employees hardcore rebelled against the mask rule. They tell us the virus wasn't real, or that masks didn't work, or that we wouldn't force them to wear anything they didn't want to. In the same breath, they whine that masks didn't prevent viral transmission, but that they also didn't allow oxygen to pass through the holes. Now that was just ridiculous. How could a virus composed of at least several hundred atoms be allowed through the mask holes, while gaseous oxygen, a 2-atom structure, couldn't? I have a degree in biology with a minor in public health, so I understand a lot of the science behind the different policies and concepts from the COVID era. Masks aren't designed to prevent individual variants from passing through them. They're just made to catch contaminated droplets. Oxygen passes freely through them. It just takes getting used to breathing with a mask on. Surgeons and other medical personnel do it all the time. People in Asia have been wearing masks to prevent the spreading of illness for years, but it was too big of an ask for us to help protect each other. Anyway, I digress. People on all sides yelled at me on a regular basis. I was no longer the essential worker no longer the hero they called me at the beginning. I was now apparently the evil boss man withholding basic supplies from the public and implementing my own socialist agenda on my subordinates. The people at the top of the corporate ladder raked in record profits from grocery and consumable sales, while we had to deal with the everyday traumas in the actual workplace. I don't think I could do it again. Case 3, a family anecdote. This case recounts the impact that both COVID-19 and SES-20 had on one individual's family. This case demonstrates the ways in which SES-20 may emerge in more intimate, less public settings. Anonymous. Tires crunched over loose gravel as we turned off the main road and onto the driveway. The imposing baby blue house pulled into view, and a grandiose rust-red porch adorned with rows and rows of daisies, daffodils, marigolds, and ferns. Grandma and Grandpa sat in folding camping chairs just outside the garage, a safe 20 feet from the end of the concrete on which we were allowed to stand. Dad and my brothers visited my grandparents every now and then from the mandatory 20-foot minimum distance, but I hadn't seen them in months. Between hearing that I left their church and learning that I was gay, our ever tenuous relationship became even more strained when COVID reared its ugly head. I wanted to trust them again. I wanted them to love me again. But I wasn't the heterosexual, God-fearing doctor in training they wanted me to be. Grandpa had always been terrified of disease. Close that door. Do you know what could happen? You could be letting a mouse run inside. They're fast, they might not even know you did it. You could let a mouse in and it could be droppings everywhere. We could all get the hantavirus if you don't shut the door faster. Make sure Ryan changes her clothes and really scrubs her hands with hot water. She thought on the swings out back and she could be contaminated with tetanus. She gets those germs all over the house, we could all catch it. He was so constantly worried that he often skipped family gatherings if he heard that anyone going had the sniffles, even during allergy season. He improved over the years, probably from being surrounded by a gaggle of grandchildren, then COVID hit. Grandma, an enduring mass of a woman, looked at us with wrinkled, tired eyes, apparently genuinely happy to see us. This pit stop on the way back from Dad's work site in Wyoming was the first time I had seen my grandparents in several months. Despite knowing that we were all healthy and fully vaccinated, Grandpa just looked nervous. We chatted pleasantly for a while about extended family, who won their latest softball tournament, who came out to visit last week, and who was graduating soon, and then the conversation turned to me. How's school going, Doc? Grandma joked. You're graduating this spring, right? Oh, I replied. I actually decided to add another year to my undergrad so I could add another degree. Another degree? Grandma asked incredulously. In what? General English. Really? Why do you want to do that? I guess you could do some medical writing and combine your degrees. I dug the dirty tip of my black Converse shoe into the gravel and looked away. I'm actually not positive, but I'm thinking maybe something in publishing. I realized I'm actually excited about doing extracurricular activities in the humanities, so I found a couple jobs in the English department. I love working for the magazine I read for, and I've been doing research with one of my history professors that I'm really excited about. I guess I felt like I was forcing myself to do the STEM stuff just to check the boxes to get into PA school, but I don't think I want to go that route anymore. So no PA school then? No PA school, I said. I plan on finishing my biology degree though. I feel like it could maybe give me an interesting perspective that other writers might not have. Who knows, maybe I'll use my background in science to write pieces that look like research articles. English will be a hard field to get into, she replied. We're excited for you anyways though. Thanks. Our short visit drew to its end and we stood up from where we were leaning on Dad's truck to leave. I love you all, Grandma smiled, and they both rose to wave goodbye. I took a step forward toward them, momentarily forgetting the 20-foot rule and wanting to hug my grandparents for the first time in over a year. Grandma's smile faltered, and she looked over to her husband. Grandpa, eyes filled with terror, stepped backward into the shadow of the garage. Conclusion. By examining both these case study reports and the incidents data we have collected thus far, it is interesting to note that while COVID-19, the SCS causal agent, spreads through droplet transmission from avoidable proximity to infected persons, SES-20 spreads from patient's isolation and distance, both physical and emotional. The transmission of the secondary illness appears to be an exact inversion of the primary illness. In compiling these case studies, this researcher finds that he also has contracted SES-20. He displays several of the textbook symptoms, including increased anxiety, fatigue, a solitary behavior, disenchantment with humanity, and indecision. He also experiences existential dread. Or is it nihilism? Honestly, who cares? It doesn't matter anyway. He thought that studying the sickness would help people, but look at what happened with COVID-19. At first, perhaps it's understandable that people feared the emerging scientific findings were too volatile, too fragile even. Eventually, though, the data became concrete. We knew what we were dealing with, and we knew how to slow and even prevent the spread of COVID. We knew how to save lives. Many people didn't care, though. They didn't wear their masks, and they didn't social distance, and they didn't get the vaccination series. Given the emerging widespread aversion to epidemiological research, this researcher doubts that the response to these findings would be any different to the response from the development in our understanding of COVID. The thing about SES-20 is that we all have it. There's no treatment for SES-20 because there's no vaccination for ignorance. there is no cure for apathy. Should this writer decide to send this out for review and eventual publication, given the intentional arrogance and ignorance of the general population, he is left to wonder if people would even care about this research and findings. He supposes he will have to answer the ultimate question. After all humanity has done and been through, is it even worth saving?
I'm not going to aggressively start this time. I'm just going to say, is anybody else? Okay, cool. Then thank you all for coming tonight. Good to see you all, and hope we'll see you back throughout the summer.
Thank you, Sean.